8 May. A date that shaped giants, rebels, and provocateurs. On this day, a boy from Hawaii would travel halfway across the world to become what no American had ever been, a sumo grand champion. Akebono Tarō didn't just enter the ring. He shattered 4 centuries of tradition. This same date gave us a voice that makes corporations tremble. Naomi Klein turned her pen into a weapon against the machinery of global capitalism. And then, there's the man with rainbow hair and a face full of ink who burned through the music industry like wildfire, before the FBI came knocking. 6ix9ine played a game most wouldn't dare. 3 paths. 3 revolutions. 1 birthday. What is it about this day that breeds those who refuse to follow? In the world of sumo, there are champions, and then there are those who reshape the very boundaries of what is possible. Akebono Tarō was such a man. Born Chad Rowan in Waimanalo, Hawaii, in 1969, he would rise from the tropical shores of the Pacific to the sacred clay of Japan's most ancient sport, becoming a figure of almost mythic proportions. Standing at 6 feet 8 inches and weighing over 500 pounds, Akebono was an imposing presence. But it was not merely his size that set him apart. It was his spirit, his determination, and his willingness to immerse himself completely in a culture vastly different from his own. He arrived in Japan in 1988, a young man of 18, barely speaking the language, knowing little of the traditions that governed every aspect of sumo life. The path was brutal. Foreign wrestlers faced not only the physical demands of training but also skepticism, isolation, and at times, open hostility. Many before him had faltered. Akebono endured. In January 1993, he achieved what no Western-born wrestler had ever accomplished. He was promoted to yokozuna, the highest rank in sumo, the 64th man in history to hold this sacred title. The ceremony was steeped in centuries of tradition, and there, at its center, stood a Hawaiian who had made Japan's heart his own. His rivalry with fellow yokozuna Takanohana and Wakanohana defined an era, drawing millions of viewers and reigniting passion for sumo across Japan. Akebono moved with a grace that belied his enormous frame, combining raw power with technical mastery. 11 tournament championships would follow, each victory cementing his legend. When he retired in 2001, he chose to remain in Japan, becoming a Japanese citizen and taking the name by which he would be remembered. He tried his hand at professional wrestling and mixed martial arts, ventures that met with mixed success, yet his willingness to challenge himself never wavered. The years that followed brought struggles with health, a reminder that even giants are mortal. On the 4th of April, 2024, Akebono Tarō passed away at the age of 54, leaving behind a legacy that transcended sport and nationality. Today, when young wrestlers from distant shores dream of glory in the sumo ring, they walk a path that Akebono helped to carve. He proved that dedication, respect, and an open heart could bridge any divide. In a world that often emphasizes what separates us, his life stands as a testament. In the sprawling metropolis of Montreal, in the year 1970, a voice was born that would one day shake the foundations of global capitalism and challenge the powerful to answer for their sins against people and planet. Naomi Klein grew up in a family where activism wasn't just encouraged, it was inherited. Her parents, American draft resistors who fled to Canada during the Vietnam War, planted seeds of dissent that would bloom into something extraordinary. From her earliest days, young Naomi understood that silence in the face of injustice was never an option. She came of age during an era of profound transformation. The Berlin Wall crumbled. Free markets conquered new territories. Corporations grew larger than nations. And while many celebrated this brave new world, Klein watched with growing unease, her pen poised to document what others chose to ignore. Then came the book that changed everything. In the year 2000, no logo exploded onto the global stage like a literary thunderbolt. In its pages, Klein dissected the dark machinery of brand culture, revealing how multinational corporations had colonized not just our economies, but our very identities. A generation of young activists found their manifesto, and suddenly, the woman from Montreal was speaking for millions. But she was only getting started. 7 years later, the shock doctrine arrived, and it was devastating. Klein exposed how disasters, both natural and manufactured, became opportunities for the powerful to remake societies according to their vision. From Chile to Iraq, from New Orleans to Poland, she traced a pattern of exploitation hidden in plain sight. Critics tried to dismiss her. They could not silence her. As climate change emerged as the defining crisis of our time, Klein turned her formidable intellect toward the burning planet. Her works on environmental justice argued that we cannot solve the climate emergency without confronting the economic systems that created it. For Klein, these battles were never separate. They were always one. Today, at 56 years old, Naomi Klein remains what she has always been, a thorn in the side of complacency, a chronicler of resistance, a voice for those crushed beneath the wheels of unchecked power. In an age of misinformation and manufactured doubt, her commitment to truth-telling feels more vital than ever. She reminds us that the story isn't over. That ordinary people, organized and determined, have always been capable of extraordinary change. And perhaps that is her greatest gift to us, not despair at what we face, but faith in what we might yet be. In the sprawling concrete jungle of Brooklyn, New York, a boy with rainbow-colored hair would emerge from the shadows of poverty to become one of the most controversial figures in modern music history. This is the story of Daniel Hernandez, known to the world as 6ix9ine. Born in 1996 to a Mexican mother and Puerto Rican father, Daniel's childhood was marked by tragedy and hardship. The streets of Bushwick were unforgiving, and when his stepfather was murdered on the very steps of their home, the young boy's world shattered into pieces. He was just 13 years old. Expelled from school in 8th grade, Daniel drifted through odd jobs, working at a bodega and later as a busboy, all while the weight of circumstance pressed heavily upon his shoulders. But within this troubled youth burned an undeniable creative fire. He began experimenting with music, his aggressive style and distinctive image setting him apart from anything the industry had seen before. With his face adorned in tattoos and his hair a kaleidoscope of colors, he was impossible to ignore. In 2017, his breakthrough single Gummo exploded onto the scene, reaching number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100 and announcing his arrival with the force of a hurricane. What followed was a meteoric rise that defied all conventional wisdom. His debut album Dummy Boy spawned hit after hit, with tracks like Fifi featuring Nicki Minaj dominating airwaves worldwide. He had achieved what many thought impossible, transforming himself from a struggling Brooklyn kid into a global phenomenon almost overnight. Yet fame brought with it a darkness that proved inescapable. His association with the 9 Trey Gangsta Bloods criminal organization led to his arrest in 2018 on federal racketeering charges. Facing the possibility of decades behind bars, Daniel made a choice that would forever alter his legacy. He became a government witness, testifying against his former associates in exchange for a reduced sentence. To some, he was a survivor doing what he must. To others, he had broken an unwritten code that could never be forgiven. Released early during the global pandemic of 2020, he returned to music, though the landscape had shifted beneath his feet. His singles still charted, but the cultural conversation around him had changed irrevocably. Today, as he approaches 30 years of age, 6ix9ine remains a figure who divides opinion like few others. His story raises profound questions about authenticity, survival, and the price of fame in an age where image and reality blur beyond recognition. Whether viewed as a cautionary tale or an unlikely survivor, his journey reminds us that in the world of modern celebrity, what a journey today, from Akebono Tarō breaking barriers in sumo wrestling, to Naomi Klein challenging how we think about capitalism and crisis, to 6ix9ine turning controversy into one of the most talked about careers in hip-hop. 3 completely different paths, but each one undeniably left a mark. So here's my question for you, who do you think was the most influential? Drop your answer in the comments, I genuinely want to know what you think. And if you enjoyed this one, hit that subscribe